Well, I did it. I knit what is possibly the most controversial knitting sweater pattern that has ever gone viral in the knitting verse, the Ranunculus. So the Ranunculus sweater is a design by Midori Hirosi and was first published in 2017. And I'm not joking that since then it has been on the Ravelry's Hot Right Now page like perennially, ever since. Some people love it. They can't stop knitting it. They've knitted it like 20 times. Other people absolutely hate this pattern. They think it's the fuggliest thing that's ever fugged in knitting. Is the Ranunculus overhyped? Is it overhated? And what do I think about it after actually having worked the pattern myself? Well, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, give this video a thumbs up, and let's talk about the Ranunculus. Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Carrie Craft Geek, and this is where I talk about making pretty things with pretty string, usually with 2 sticks, and very recently I completed this. This is my Ranunculus sweater. Do you think it's pretty? Some people might think so. Some people might think it's not so pretty. When you go on the internet and you look at different projects of the Ranunculus, you will see a wide variety of results. Some look fantastic, some maybe don't look as fantastic. Even if you just look at the picture on the cover page of the pattern, it can look like an oversized, shapeless potato sack that would only look good on a walking hanger. However, then you see maybe this photo of the Ranunculus done in a lighter weight yarn. It's much more airy, it's much more ethereal, and personally, I think this is beautiful. And that's the thing about this pattern. This pattern offers a lot of choices that you can make to create different effects, right? Which means this pattern can be a little bit of a choose your own adventure. Some people may love that. Some people may hate that. So there are some things about this pattern that does make it kind of unique. This is a top down in the round sweater. It starts off by casting on for the collar, and then you go into this circular yoke portion, which features a combination of sort of textured stitches with lacy inserts. The designer said she wanted this to have the appearance of kind of layers of different necklaces. Once you get past the circular yoke portion, however, you then go into this raglan shaping here. These are just diagonal lines of shaping that actually brings the sweater out to the actual width. So all of this up here, this circular yoke portion, is the same regardless of what size you knit. And then the shaping to get to your final size is done here in these raglan lines. In addition, there is short row shaping on the back of the sweater so that the collar will fall forward the way you would normally want. And also there are short row shapings on the front of the sweater to give it this boat neck collar. Once you're past the yoke and the raglan shaping, then you separate for the sleeves like you would any top-down sweater. You have this portion of stockinette and then some twisted rib here down at the bottom. It is really a pretty straightforward pattern. Like I said, though, there are those unique features. The fact that it combines both a circular yoke and raglan shaping, and that you do have short row shaping both at the back of the sweater and to the front of the sweater. The other thing that makes this pattern kind of original, and I think one of the reasons people really get into knitting it, is this pattern is designed with a ton of ease. The pattern was actually designed to have 10 inches of positive ease. You heard me right, 10 inches. Typically, a oversized sweater will be like maybe 4 to 5 inches of positive ease, and this is nearly double that, or is double that. 5, 10, double. So this is a super oversized pattern, and it can be knit on very large needles, which means this knits up very fast and doesn't use a lot of yarn. And I think these things, the fact that it knits up quickly, that it uses very little yarn, and it has these really interesting stitch patterns here at the top, make this kind of an addictive pattern because it's just so quick to make. However, there is a big downside to all of this positive ease, right? The hate for the ranunculus is real, and I have to admit, not unjustified. I mean, if I'm just looking at this sweater on my mannequin, it does kind of look like a shapeless, oversized burlap sack. I can't deny it. My husband assures me that when I wear it, it does not look that way and it looks very nice. But this is a very oversized sweater. It doesn't have any shaping at the waist, and it is the kind of design which, I will be honest, kind of lends itself to smaller proportioned bodies. That doesn't mean there aren't some things you can do if you're, you know, a larger bodied, plus sized like myself to make this work for you. But yeah, first blush, first glance, this can be an unflattering looking sweater just on the mannequin. The other issue with this sweater is the yoke followed by the raglan shaping is quite deep. The thing with a large arm sky or a deep armhole depth that goes down lower is that it can, especially on the long sleeve version, you can get like the T-Rex arm, you know, effect where it feels like the person can't possibly lift their arms beyond this. It also means if you do lift your arms up, the sweater will ride up with it. There are workarounds with this to modify it or make adjustments to it, so these aren't as big of an issue. Now, if you don't like modding patterns, you're not going to like this pattern probably. If you don't like all these variations, if you don't like all these choices that you're going to have to make, if you want a pattern that's frankly a little bit more straightforward, this pattern may not be for you, and that's okay. I mean, we all should knit the things that bring us joy and love. However, if you like being able to feel like you can really play with a pattern fairly easily, the ranunculus is actually really great because despite some of its unique features, especially around the short row shaping on the front and the back, this pattern is like really straightforward. And so really straightforward patterns can be easier to modify. And I'm going to give you just a few examples of things that you can do at the end of this video. But first, well, you might have figured out how I feel about this pattern, but let's talk about my personal experience with the ranunculus and would I knit this again? Just starting with the yarn choice. Its yarn recommendation is you can knit this pattern from fingering weight to worsted weight. That's right, with the same size needles, by the way. It only gives one size needle recommendation regardless of what weight yarn that you choose. I personally chose to knit my ranunculus in this worsted weighted yarn from Lion's brand. This yarn is called Local Grown and is a 100% wool yarn. This is actually the last yarn I ever bought from Joann's. I bought it when it was on clearance in their closeout sale. So let's take a quiet moment for Joann's. Joann's might be closed, by the way, but this yarn still exists, and I have to say, I actually enjoyed working with it. So the recommended needle size on the ball band is a size 8 US needle, and I knit this with a size 11. So definitely a larger needle than what you would normally knit with this weight of yarn, but not completely outside the realm of appropriateness. And I think personally, I got, you know, an oversized sweater that doesn't look too loose, right? The gauge doesn't look too loose. But if I chose a fingering weight yarn, even a DK weight yarn, and knit it on a size 11 needle, well, I'd get a result that more closely resembled this example from the pattern. And by the way, I do think this is something that's really cool about the pattern, is it does encourage you to kind of play with the weight of yarn you use to see what a different effect you can get with the pattern. I know not everyone else is going to love that, but I kind of do. The next variation that the pattern offers up itself is with the collar. It offers directions for what is like they call a smaller collar and a wider collar. I chose the wider collar because I just like a wider boat neck if I'm going to go that boat neck direction. But you have directions for both. You also get directions to knit this both as a long sleeve, and there's a couple variations on how you can knit the long sleeve, or as a short sleeve. I chose to do the straight up short sleeve direction, which involved, when I split for the sleeves, actually binding off these stitches up here for the yoke and then having to just cast on some stitches for the underarm. I like when a pattern offers up variations for you so that you can kind of pick and choose the elements that you want to incorporate your sweater, not only so you can knit something that is truly unique to your taste, but also allows you to play. And I do think this is one of the reasons why the Ranunculus is so popular and people will knit it over and over again, is because you can literally knit this pattern like at least 10 times and end up with 10 totally different looking sweaters. Well, very different looking sweaters anyway. And that's a lot of fun, and that's really intriguing. And frankly, you'll feel like you really get your money's worth out of this one pattern. That being said, I also do understand why some people are very wary, even hateful towards this pattern. So far, what do you think about the Ranunculus? Have you knitted this before? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Are you curious about it? Let me know. But for me, if you got to this point in the video, you've probably figured out that I kind of love the Ranunculus. I have to say, I found this a very fun knit. In particular, this yoke section, other people have commented about it online, but it is true. It has so much lovely variety in it with the different stitch patterns and the little bit of lace in it. And it just stays interesting right from the collar through the yoke, through the raglan section. Even when I got down here to the stockinette portion of the body of the sweater, because of its large gauge, it knit up very fast. I did not feel like I was going to be knitting stockinette for the rest of my life at all. And, you know, the ribbing, I will say, I don't love knitting twisted rib, and I didn't love it. I didn't enjoy that process. In fact, I think I made a comment about it on some other social media platform, but, you know, it was fine. It didn't last that long, and I survived knitting the twisted ribbing. And I will say, as a matter of function, I think this pattern with its large gauge really benefits from the twisted rib. One area in the pattern that I personally struggled with was actually the raglan shaping. I don't know why. I had to undo it several times. It was just complete user error on my part. I don't blame the pattern. Again, I think the pattern is exceptionally well written. There was just something in my brain that was just like not like clicking together. That was completely, again, my fault, user error. But that being said, it's a really fun knit. It's a really fast knit. It's approachable. And frankly, I do want to knit this again. I want to knit this again in a lighter weight yarn, maybe mohair. I haven't decided, but I really love the versions of the Ranunculus that I see that are really like airy and loose. Like this version of it, I want that. I want that. What I'm going to talk about today is not like exhaustive. These are kind of obvious things. There are a lot of different options. If you do some research out on the internet, you're going to find different people who did different modifications, and you can kind of get inspiration from that. But this is just to let you know some of the basic ones. First piece of advice, I think this is true for anyone when it comes to the ranunculus, is choose which size you knit carefully. I think the main thing to do is the pattern does give the finished bust size for each size. So choose your size based on the amount of ease you want for your sweater. So when I was choosing a size, I measured my full bust, and then I was like, I'm comfortable with maybe 5 to 6 inches of positive ease. So I took my bust size, I added 5 inches to that, and then I chose the finished bust measurement that was closest to that. And I have to say, I'm very happy with the fit of it. Yes, it's still oversized, but it's not so oversized that I, look like a potato because in a potato sack. That was my real concern. I did not want to look like a pea pod or a potato in a potato sack. If you're more adventuresome, something else you can do to adjust both the fit and the drape of the pattern is to knit with smaller needles to have a smaller gauge. Now, whether you go full hog on this and you knit up a gauge swatch for that smaller gauge so you can map out all the different shaping and sizing that you'll want with your ranunculus, or you just want to wing it and see what happens with smaller needles, either path is good. But the nice thing about the ranunculus is the fact that, as I keep saying, this yoke portion is the same directions no matter what size of the sweater that you pick. So you can cast on and start knitting, and then when you get down to the shaping after this yoke portion is done, you can either math out or play out how much more additional shaping you want to do to get the width that you want from the garment. I think the most common modification that I saw online when I was looking up the ranunculus was eliminating the short rows at the front of the sweater so you don't get that boat neck effect. Still do the short rows at the back because that's going to give you a better fit so the sweater isn't like falling back on you. Ugh, I hate that. If you, like me, want a short sleeve version of the ranunculus, you can obviously follow the short sleeve directions, but you might end up with fabric rolling at the end of your sleeve. If you don't want to have a rolled hem at your sleeve, I suggest you follow the beginning of the directions for the long sleeve version of the ranunculus so that after you've cast off the bottom ribbing, you can come back and you can knit some ribbing at the sleeves. A very easy modification to make. If you want to learn more about sweater knitting and how to modify sweaters for yourself and all those things, I would see if you can get your hands on this Amy Herzog's Ultimate Sweater book, The Essential Guide for Adventurous Knitters. This book, it has patterns in here, but it also gives you advice on yarn choices and fibers and adjustments that you can make to patterns. I'm busty, and so when I see patterns that only grade up to a bust size of like 46 inches, I'm like, well, that's not for me, is it? And it's disappointing, and it's just disappointing. But being able to make adjustments to a pattern to fit your body is empowerment, and I love being able to feel empowered with knitting. So if you are interested in this book, of course, I will leave a link for it down in the description box, or try to tag it if you'd like to find it. Some of these links and all of these tags are affiliate links. So if you utilize any of them to do some shopping, I might earn a small commission. And this really does help literally keep the lights on for this channel. This is, of course, an additional level of support. So if you utilize it, thank you so much. It is so greatly appreciated. You can also consider leaving me a YouTube super thanks or a tip through Buy Me a Coffee, also linked down below. Right about now, a video suggestion is going to pop up if you'd like to watch more from me. If you have to get on with your day, I completely understand. Thank you again for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day, evening, weekend, weeknight, whenever you might be watching this. And as always, happy health and happy making. Bye.